Hi everyone. So today I'm going to be talking about two interventions, worksite interventions that were aimed at increasing fruit and vegetable consumption. So the first one was this week's reading, and it is the Seattle 5-a-day worksite intervention. This followed a stages of change theory, and most of it was implemented through an employee advisory board. So they were responsible for tailoring intervention activities, implementing the activities, and recruiting others to the EAB, which is the Employee Advisory Board. The intervention actually followed phases, which this is under the assumption that everyone was at the pre-contemplation phase. So there were four major phases. So the first one is the start. They started with a pre-campaign that was aimed at moving people from pre-contemplation to contemplation. The employees received regular messages a month, and there were signs, messages. There was a lot of channels that they used. So they got regular messages on increasing fruits and vegetables. And then the second phase, moved people, would try to move people from contemplation to preparation. So what they did, it was a lot of, their focus was on self-evaluation, self-assessment, also the pros and cons of having more fruit and vegetable consumption. The third phase was more skill building for individuals, work site changes, how worksite changes can help with fruit and vegetable consumption. They also had point of purchase displays, and they labeled foods in the cafeteria that identify as 5-a-day foods. They also offered incentives during this phase. And then finally, the fourth phase was focused on ways to adopt new skills to everyday life. So, how to incorporate fruits and vegetables into everyday life. The intervention at that point also focused on social support, environmental changes, and it even gave cooking demonstration. So, one of the major a couple things from this study is the first one is that it focused mainly on the individual. The work site provided, more fruits, more vegetables, but a lot of the focus was on the individual. A couple other things is that the data did show that there was an increase in fruit and vegetable consumption. However, the data collection was self-reported. So there is no way really of telling whether that is actually true. So there is some problems in that. So then the next article I will be discussing is the Danish 6-a-day. So it is linked. So this was a really interesting, pretty similar intervention. So again, it was a work site, but a couple of things that are different about this are the workplaces. So the settings, they were all workplaces. There was only 5, but what was interesting is that they kind of vary on educational level. So they go anywhere from it looks like a military base, a bank, an electronic or computer distributor, town hall, and a waste handling facility. So they specifically chose those locations because they also wanted to include physically active men, which is the military base and the waste handling facility. So what's interesting about this article is that it actually does not focus on the individual. It focuses more on the cafeteria employees, so they refer to them as canteen workers. The intervention actually focused on them. So they went on like pretty intense training on ways to incorporate fruits and vegetables into the cafeterias where they currently work at. So the reason they did that is because little is known about how staff are motivated to change existing practices. And also there's no systematic measurements on how to investigate the connection between food choices as offered and impact on consumption. So again, it focuses on canteen staff for high level of project ownership. So each work site the canteen workers of each worksite went pretty rigorous training So it's 8 hours of training for canteen staff, and the main focus was on more effective ways to cut and prep fruit and vegetables, and how to make quote delicious meals for buffets. So each canteen site, so each cafeteria site and the workers each established their own goals. So the goals varied from the military base to the town hall. So they each set their own goals, and the way outcomes were measured was that the fruits and vegetables were actually weighed. So one limitation from that is that the canteen workers can do their jobs, they can increase fruit and vegetable consumption, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the individual is actually going to consume fruits and vegetables. So at the end of the study, there was an increase in fruits and vegetables used in the cafeteria, but whether or not the employees actually ate them and consumed more, it's unknown. But it is a very interesting approach to increasing fruit and vegetable consumption. So again, this one, the second study had different work settings. So again, they each emphasized different goals. They were each at different places, so it measures how much fruit and vegetables were being consumed prior to the intervention, and then once the canteen workers had got trained, they weighed how many fruits and vegetables were done, and they did increase. However, no individual data was available. So I hope you guys enjoy those two articles, and then answer the questions.